Hello and a warm welcome to the Witches Tea Party. I have Ellen, the co-host, just tuning in as we speak. We are going to be picking out a topic from the hat today, so we will be finding out what that is very shortly. If there's anything that you would like us to be talking about, we have a wealth of knowledge. So please message us, go to at ellenserena.com or check out my website. It's amandatantricwitch.com. Nearly forgot what it was because I've changed it a few times. And I'm just going to message my gorgeous Ellen now and say that we are on. We are on. I've got my headset today, so it may sound a little bit different. And where's my beautiful intro music? Have I got one here? No. A gorgeous friend of mine gave me her laptop and it's so much faster than my other one. So a big shout out to Savannah. You are an amazing girl. So I will keep on talking until she jumps on. And it's been a very interesting couple of weeks. Did anyone feel the full moon last night? Wow, it was amazing. Massive energy. And Ellen is here. Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Yay! I wanted to test. I've got my headphones in today. So
Perfect.
yeah, I wanted to make sure you can pick it up. Because my son's in the background. So I thought I tried giving him my headphones, didn't work. So if you hear some beeping noise in the background, you know that's him. How have you been?
Bless.
How are you all recovered from
good.
COVID?
Yes, thank God for that. Thank you. And how are you going? You well? You good?
Oh, it feels like I've been partying since 1999 with the full moon last night.
I know. It's like wired.
I was, yeah, my son was wild yesterday. I was just like a blue ass fly. I was gardening, I was clearing out all this, I was scrubbing, I was cleaning, I was doing everything. Superwoman.
Bless.
So yes, I'm feeling it today. I'm feeling tired. I said to my mum, it's like I've done an all-nighter.
Yeah,
Like back in the old
bless.
days.
No,
Anyway,
it's big, strong energy. Okay, so what's in the hat today? What's coming out?
Wait, a little rustle. I had to get another baseball cap out today because I keep wearing them.
I love that our witch's hat is a baseball cap.
I know. I know.
The modern witch.
I know. Well, I don't have any other. I nearly bought one for a costume, but I think I went for a cape instead for Halloween.
Ah, nice. I saw one online recently and it was like they sold like bright pink, purple ones with lights and stuff and neon disco lights.
Oh my
God. Wow. I'll have to send it to you. It's quite hilarious.
My mum will be all over that. I tell you, at Christmas, she said, "Oh, I've got something to show you," and I was like, "Oh, here we go." And she got out this tiara with flashing lights for Christmas. She put it on her head and she was like, "Oh, I didn't buy it like this. I actually made it and adapted it." And I was like, "Of course you did, Mum. Of course you did." Love it.
I love
Full
it.
expression.
Exactly.
All right, so I want something where I can't remember what we put on these now. So let's just unpick this one. I'm a bit scared.
It's like Kinder Surprise. You never know what you're going to get.
I'm a bit scared though, because I think, oh God, I've wrote so much down. I don't remember what they will be.
It's all perfect.
Oh no. Okay.
Oh no, what's the topic?
Triggers. See, me and Ellen have been talking offline, so we know what this was all about. Triggers.
Yeah, triggers, perfect. You know, it was actually interesting because I was literally like this is such a perfect topic because I was literally last night channeling stuff through for like clients in a new course and stuff, and it was actually a lot of the stuff coming through is about healing and shifting triggers. And I think often we look at triggers and we think, oh, it's a bad thing, or when someone triggers you or something pisses you off or offends you, and it's actually really good because it's actually showing you what needs to be healed and released within you so you can go to the next level. You know, it's showing you where your limiting beliefs are. And I think in our culture, you know, I was talking the other day to someone and I think we've become almost too precious in our Western culture. It's like everybody's offended these days. And it's like I had a mentor last year who said to me, he's like, if you get offended, you need to get offended more often. It was like, and, you know, and everyone's blaming everybody else for how they're feeling and saying you shouldn't say this or you shouldn't do this because it triggers or upsets me. And it's like, well, no, if it triggers and upsets you, that's where your work is to clean that shit up.
Yes. And
Yeah.
do you know, it made me think of Ricky Gervais, the English comedian.
I love him.
Yes,
I
and
love
he
him.
he mentions this. He's like, if I don't offend anybody, there would be no comedy. Like,
Yeah.
and he put this really, really well, actually, because he's a very intelligent guy. I followed him for many years, and he said that, if he makes a joke about fat people, that's not offensive. If he makes it about a particular person being fat, that's offensive.
Mm.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
that then becomes bullying. And I think that's
Yes.
where the Chris Rock thing went wrong, because he went
Yeah.
personal, directed to somebody's personal circumstances. He's not just making it a general thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or
That
and it was like that, yeah.
bit too personal there. And I think who was it? Is it what's his name? Russell Peters. He's the guy, the comedian that does a lot of the racial jokes. And you go to one of his shows. I don't know if you've seen his stuff, Amanda.
No.
No, he's an Indian Canadian, but he literally takes the piss out of every single race. And you go to one of his shows, and you will have the Arabs there, the Chinese there, the Westerners there, the Mexicans. You'll have everybody from every race, and he
Yeah.
will literally just take the piss out of every single race. But it's so relatable because what he's telling is truth. It's like,
Yes.
he'll pull out the different characters and personalities of different cultures and races and just take the absolute mickey out of it. And it's so refreshing because it's just like, well, this is how we can be in these different cultures and races, and let's celebrate it and see the humor and have fun with it. And if people choose to be offended, it's like, well, look at that. What's coming up
Yeah.
around that?
What's your problem? And that's it. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much liberation in laughing at ourselves, like being able
Yes.
to laugh at ourselves and say, yeah, I've got this and this, and you become free with
Yeah.
that. And yeah, I
Exactly.
think, and working with you, Ellen, you've introduced the triggers thing to me in a really positive light, and thank you for that.
No, my
Because
pleasure.
um, for you to say, if you get triggered, it's going to happen, or as practitioners, we are going to trigger people. We're going to say the stuff that
Mm.
people don't want to hear. That's
Yes.
okay. Let's work through it. That is a
Yes.
whole different new reality, because, especially in America, from England, where we're very prim and proper, we don't say things because we want to be polite all the time because it's the thing to do.
Yes.
But you go and backstab behind someone's bitch. Bitch behind someone's back. Yeah, you know what I mean? Um,
Yes.
and then in America, you've got people suing each other.
Oh,
You
it's
know,
insane,
it,
isn't it? There's a
it's
really good book. Sorry, Amanda, just quickly,
yeah.
just coming through. Sorry to interrupt. There's a really good book that's by Debbie Ford called The Dark Side of the Light Worker, or The Dark Side of the Light. And I highly recommend that book to people because that's all about shifting shadows and triggers and all the rest of it. And then looking at that in a really healthy, positive way. And she's like, those shadows and those triggers can actually liberate you into a higher level of consciousness. And there's a lot of gold in that if you allow it to be, or if you identify it and become a victim, then it just percolates and manifests.
Mm.
Sort of, what do you call it? Oh fuck, I don't even know the word today. Anyway,
For me,
sorry.
it's annoying. It's not just me.
Anyway, I'm so sorry I interrupted you, sweet. So continue. I just
No,
had that book
no.
come through and I was like, I've got to say it now before I forget it.
Yeah, no. I was in a bit of a word muddle myself. Yeah, just how triggers can be, like you say, it can be really good. Like when someone goes, oh, like that hit a sore spot. It's like,
Yes.
that's great. Let's work through that. Let's go through. And
Yeah.
I actually use this. Oh, I won't air. I've been in trouble with my family for airing too much of our stuff, right? So I won't go too much. I won't say any
Yes.
names. But for but for
There's a trigger
someone,
right there in the family.
I know,
Don't
right?
share. Don't talk about
Yeah,
it.
don't tell everybody our business. I'm like, why? What are you ashamed of? Come on, let's talk about it.
Let's get all the dirty laundry
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Well, I literally did. I actually did, because you know what? And this is the God's honest truth. There's two people's version of the truth. What's the saying? There's their version, her version, his version, and then the truth. And over the
Mm,
years, it's so morphed into what actually happened. And I've gone, I don't care. Like
yes.
all I focus on is our relationship that we have today, now, right now.
Beautiful.
And yeah, and I just said, I actually finished it. I was pretty proud of myself because I was highly emotionally triggered, right? This is, a high member of my family. And it's only the second time in my life I've stood up to that person. And I said, right, you've got two choices. Like, you've said some truths, I've said some truths. Do you want to talk truths? Let's go. You know, get in the ring. Let's go, because we're both adults now, right? And I actually said, you've got two choices. You can either throw your hands up in the air and say it's all too hard, stick a label on me and say it's all too hard, like I'm
Yeah.
crazy, or I'm just like this, or I'm just like that, or I don't know what's happened to her. She's gone off the rails. Whatever it is you want to do, you can do that.
Yeah.
Or we have a fucking conversation and we
Yeah.
work through it, we evolve, and this has come up for healing, and then we
Yes.
actually resolve this. And you
Yeah,
know what?
absolutely.
Radio silence. And
Yeah.
it's like,
It's
I can sleep at night. I was thinking about this last night. I thought, as much as it hurts, I think, well, I've given him the option. It is up to that person. I've just said him.
yeah.
But
No names will be mentioned in the making
no,
of this show.
no. But at least I've done everything that I think I can do. It's like,
Yeah,
I can't keep on being this subservient golden child, always trying to
exactly.
appease, because it's got
Yeah,
me nowhere, and I'm the one
exactly.
suffering. So,
Yeah.
and I wasn't the one who even started it. It was them saying, we've got some truths. And I'm like, okay, I'll just project those truths back to you, and off we go. So,
And I'll throw fire on you and you'll throw fire on me and let's all burn together. And it's like
well,
that whole,
I think that
this
comes back
Tinder
to
spark.
isn't it the how we depict spirituality or spiritual people? I used to think these are like perfect, fluffy people walking around like peace and harmony, and
Mm,
they never said boo to a ghost. Whereas
yeah.
now we're like, right, we swear, we're empowered, we're going to say a message, and we don't care if you don't like it.
It's just it being ourselves.
Yeah, and I remember you saying that this is
Mm,
a transition from, from being like all fluffy pink angels to the
yeah.
hardcore message and the
Yes.
divine femme.
The work, yeah, it's like the dark shadow. It's like, I think you were talking about like goddess Kali recently, and she's often represents that dark shadow aspect and the unresolved trauma and things like that, and purification. And it was interesting because like when you're mentioning about obviously the stuff with your family and those triggers, and you can meet someone halfway, but if they're not prepared to also meet you, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to clean up my doorstep, I can't clean up yours. I'm going to take up responsibility for what's going on within me, and then move on from there. And did you need to get Leo, darling? And did you want me to keep
No,
talking?
the thing is, he's hungry, but he can't hold any food down.
Oh, poor Bubba. Poor
I know,
Bubba. Yeah,
I
not
know. So,
fun. Bless. Sending him
I
love.
know.
It's not easy.
It's all right. It's all right.
Bless.
I'll just hide around the
Yeah.
corner. Everything's
That's
good.
okay. I'll just keep blabbering for a bit. But yeah, it was interesting. I had a mentor a couple of years ago who was a very powerful teacher, very much in her power. And she, when I stepped into her container, because she was of such a high vibration and high quality, like it's almost like when you step into someone of a cleaner vibration, it almost triggers and activates all the impurities in you. And what I found really interesting, and she said something similar to me, she's like, if you feel triggered in my container, come to me and let's talk about it, look at it and process it. And anyway, I remember we got into about the second month of the 12-month thing, and I got triggered so bad, and it was like my ego just wanted to vomit and project and blame everything on her. And it was like, and I remember doing like this healing process around it. It was so dark and so black. And I was so triggered by it that I just wanted to kind of run away. And I ended up sabotaging that relationship. And then I ended up, when it kind of cleared, and then I thought, my God, Elle, you're being cray-cray. I went back and I apologized, and we ended up sitting down and having a conversation. And what was really interesting, it ended up working out to be a really big sister wound. And I remember you mentioning this in some of the work you've done with other women as well, Amanda, where, we might be triggered by another woman, in particular with like the witch wound and stuff like that, especially women in their power. And women that project back, sort of mirror back to us, where we're not holding our own power and our own truth, and we can feel threatened by them or triggered by them. But they're actually mirroring back to us, what's also within us, our own power, our own divinity, our own wealth, our own abundance, if we're ready to claim it. So I sometimes think our triggers can really overtake us, and we can really project them onto another person and blame another person, but it's actually our shit, and it's got nothing to do with the other person. They're just the mirror. and the teacher showing, it's like feedback. It's like I had it, my teacher the other day said to me, she said, everything in your material environment, it's just feedback. It's just information to show you what's going on within you. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Which is with all our relationships, you know. It's the whole, you know, why do I keep attracting dickheads into my life? It's like, maybe it's because something you are doing
Yes.
inside.
Yeah, what's the common denominator in all these
Exactly.
relationships? It's like,
Exactly. Oh, me. Exactly. Took me years to work that one out. And, yeah, and that latest example I had, because this woman is very powerful. She's more mature than me, and I got really intimidated. I was like, so I'm stepping into my mastery, and then she's like, great, I'm going to be a part of that. I'm going, no, you intimidate me.
Yeah.
This is
I'm going
exactly
to run
what I
away.
need. And it's almost a little bit like when I started teaching martial arts, I remember so vividly, like, I really want to teach martial arts. I loved martial arts. I've always been an avid fan, always used to train. And they're like, right, okay, let's go and teach. Okay, off you go. Let's start with the four to 6 year olds. Oh my gosh. I've never been so scared to teach a group of children in my life. I was like, there's loads of little people, and because I was used to being an accountant sitting behind a desk, you know, and you know, if I was going to be in charge of a team, they were adults and I was in my domain. But all of a sudden, it's martial arts, and there's little kids, and they can like ignore you or laugh at you or throw things at you, and I was like, ah! But it was great because it threw me in the deep end. Off I went, and I had the best 3 years ever.
Beautiful.
And then you learn how to handle it. But yeah, I was thinking of another
Beautiful.
trigger when you were talking about triggers appearing in your life, and how they teach us. And sometimes they teach us, I mean, for relationships, thank you, but I don't want that. You know,
Yeah.
like with
Yeah.
dating, to graciously decline and go, could you send
No
me an upgrade?
thanks.
Yeah. And to
Exactly.
not let it get that toxic. Just go, no, it's not working. Like,
Exactly.
God bless
Exactly.
you,
And it's
but
kind of showing you as well, like, you know, where you're on your journey. Like, it's again that feedback. Like, I know you and I know, like, Melanie Tonya Evans' work, who specialized in narcissistic abuse recovery. And I was actually just in a workshop with her recently about, you know, cultivating and manifesting soulmate high vibrational relationships. And she was actually talking about like her journey, that, you know, she actually, even though she had such trauma around relationships, she started to put herself out there in the dating game. And, you know, and she'd come across narcissists that would trigger the fuck out of her. And then she'd go home, she'd quantum shift it, release it, heal it. And then she said she finally got to a point, and she remembers when she finally graduated out of narcissistic shitty men was when she went on a date with a guy, and she could see straight away he was quite narcissistic. And she pulled him up on some shit in the conversation. She said, you know, that's not okay. And she set a really strong boundary. And in a public place in the middle of the day, he lost his shit with her, right? Had only just met her. And she said, rather than feeling triggered and really upset and taking it on as my own shit and how, you know, what a bad woman I am, or I'm no good or whatever, she said, I just felt fucking powerful. And I just sat there and I looked at him and I said, we're done here. And I just got up and walked out. And she goes, I went out to my car and I was punching the air, and I was like, fuck yeah. And then she said, literally then a couple of weeks later, because her energy was so clean and she'd cleaned out so much shit and so much resistance, that she then manifested her soulmate lover, who she's been with for a few years now, and he's absolutely divine. Everything she's ever wanted in a man. But she said it just showed her like her quantum leaps and quantum changes, because as she teaches, like, everything, you know, that's external is a reflection of what's internal. So anytime in particular relationships, and especially being a mother or a parent, like, I say to people, there's that saying, if you think you're enlightened, go and spend time with your family or get into a relationship. And I'm like, they should add, go and have some fucking children. Because those little angels will bring out the worst in you and the best in you, and my God, everything in between. So yeah, it's like, it's an invitation, I think, to, like, rather than push it away when you feel triggered or react to it or label it, it's like lean into it and love, bless and accept it. And just something I quickly do is when I feel triggered, I look within and I feel, where is it on my body? Because when you work with the sensations on the body, you're working with the subconscious, the deep multidimensional aspect of your being. And I'll tend to place my hands on my heart and I'll say, hey, beloved one, I love, bless and accept you. What's this about, sweetheart? And if I'm in a place or situation where I've got a journal or a piece of paper, I'll just write down what she wants me to know. And she's just like, I'm fucking angry, or, I fucking hate this, fucking fuck. Sometimes it might just be a page of fucks, it's just like, just letting it all out. And then, I'll get some crayons or I'll get some poster paint and I'll just move colors over that to release the emotional expression of it. And then you process it and release it. And then what tends to happen is that trigger or that shadow will transmute back into love, but it will leave you with the lessons and the blessings. And you're free of it then. So then next time around, when that person circulates back around and what initially would trigger you, it's not there anymore. Instead, you just smile and you go, oh, that's nice. And you just move on. So it's like a graduation. You're like, oh, I'm not getting triggered anymore. Fantastic. I've graduated. I've evolved. I'm not on that frequency anymore.
And can I say to everyone out there, if you ever, because I'm training some clients up here right at the beginning at the moment, and I always say, look, if this feels a bit crazy to begin with, like, that's okay and natural. It's a much healthier way to express yourself than to actually bottle it all up like I used to do.
Yes.
And then it explodes at someone else. And you go, oh, I'm sorry, it was actually all about my son earlier. Because that's what most of us are trained to do. We're not trained to go, let's go deep into it. Let's get it all out, express it, feel it, and then release it and let it be healed. It's like, but that's what?
Yeah,
Are we allowed
it's very yeah. And I think because a lot of people are very uncomfortable with facing uncomfortable stuff. And I think I remember you just mentioning before about the sort of when people bitch and complain behind people's backs and not to their faces, that trigger wound. And I remember years ago when I was living in Scotland and I met this Dutch guy and we were having dinner one night with some friends in Scotland, and I loved like what he said. He said a lot of people tend to find us Dutch people quite offensive because if you and I have a problem, or if you said something at dinner that I don't like what you've said, I will say it right then and there to your face. And he said, but what I've noticed in the English culture and a lot of like the Australians and things like that, he said, you're very nice to people's faces, but then behind people's backs you bitch and complain. He says, whereas in our culture we're taught to sit there and in that moment you deal with it and address it and call it out and say it to their face. And I was like, I really love that. Like, how powerful and liberating is that? Yeah, so much more healthy. And and I remember him saying that and I was like, yeah, I need to try and do that a bit more. But obviously I was really young at the time. I was like 21, and then I was like, oh no, I went back to my
and also the spiritual energetics of that, especially as I've become older, my little wise years of 41, is that it's actually so important. Even the thought, not just speech, but your thought. If you're bad mouthing someone, that is going to come back and bite you somewhere. And it's best to be upfront and go, hey girl, I actually didn't like this or didn't like that. Then to either suppress it or bottle it up, or it's I've heard that in different cultures as well. And you go, God, you're so confrontational. I've actually been called confrontational. And I'm like, I'm the most peaceful, like subservient person I've known. But what happens is I get pushed and pushed and pushed, and I go, right. And then it all comes out like a lion. Which isn't the best way. And I think again, like learning as well. I think it's a bit better now if you can go to like debating, if you can learn how to debate and talk to people and conflict resolution. But, back in my day, or, back in England or whatever you want to call it, or blame it, or the culture, you're not taught as a woman to be assertive. You're either passive or aggressive.
Yes,
and you flip between the two, and then you're called crazy. And you're like, well, how do I fucking win? How do I express me for me? And this is what's happened within my family dynamics. Is that it's like, well, that's not how women behave, and women should just, why didn't, and I actually said this to someone, I said, I'm sure that you think, why didn't she just stay an accountant, buy a white picket fence, have your kids, go out drinking and enjoy life? What's wrong with that? And I've gone, because that's not my soul calling. I'm not on this earth to do that. I'm not here to consume. I'm just
You're not here to please them either.
No,
it's like you've It's like, and if you don't fit into people's boxes, it's like, oh, hang on.
Yes. Oh, this is the biggest one. I know. Do you know what? Oh, this is so funny. I've got to just say this. This is a bit off piste. I looked for some online dating apps, right? And I'm openly bisexual. It's taken me a few years to come out. So yay, go me.
Yay.
And I sent this screenshot to a trans friend, and I said, I'm stumped on the first question. Because it said the first question, so it gives you all these questionnaires, it takes like 20 minutes to put all your things down. And it says, what what gender are you interested in, male or female? And I couldn't click both. I could not click both. And I was like, well, I can't even get past the first question. What room
So
is
they didn't
there
even
for
have the
me?
option for both?
No, no. And I was like, well, this ain't going to work, is it? Because I just can't choose. I just can't because I'm instantly segregating. I'm going, well, I'm only
Yeah.
really interested. And you're like, but I until I meet the person on a soul level, I don't know. That's the God's
Yeah.
honest truth. And
Yeah.
yeah, the whole labels thing,
It's
it's so limiting.
crazy. Yeah. And
So
it is, it's like,
limiting.
especially, I think, like, talking about that as well. And I think something that's coming through to share as well around this is, especially like for a lot of females and witches and light workers and healers out there, because we're not, and I see this quite a bit in people that I work with as well, and even in my own journey, some of our biggest triggers can actually be triggered off by, these big organizations or these, systems that are trying to kind of put us into a box, and we don't feel like we fit in. We're not part of
Mm,
mainstream. And even back in the day when, witches and healers were, revered, looked after by their community, they often lived on the outskirts. They weren't kind of
mm,
in. So, and I think sometimes I've noticed in my own journey is that I'll feel these triggers and these wounds come up, in particular around sort of money or business or banks, or when I'm dealing with big corporations. And it was really interesting
mm,
recently because I upgraded my business into a company structure. And the same similar thing there, I actually ended up feeling really triggered because I was expanding
mm,
and vibrating into a different frequency of business and, a different container. But then I'm having to deal with all this red tape and government bureaucracy. And I remember ringing up fucking ASIC or whoever the fuck they are in
yeah,
Australia. And I'm like, I don't fit into any of your boxes.
yeah.
And they were like, well, what do
Who
you
are you?
do? And I'm like, I'm a wealth shaman. And this guy was literally like, what the fuck is that? And I was just like, this is this is what
Is
I
that
do. I
recorded?
work with I work with spiritual entrepreneurs to help them to heal their money wounds, to create wealth with their purpose and their gifts and businesses, blah blah blah. And he was still like, whoa, that's really weird. Let me put you on to somebody else in another
Wow.
department. And I remember feeling really, really triggered. But I'm like, this isn't about those people. And and sometimes as well
Mm,
in our work, we can feel triggered that we're trying to tell people what we do, and we get frustrated or upset when people don't necessarily get what we do. But remembering that we're not here for everyone. Not
mm,
everyone's
mm,
going to get our work, and it's maintaining being true to you, owning when the triggers come up. And it's the same as like when I've dealt with banks and big masculine fucking entities, and and hospital systems. That was another one when I was pregnant, and you could feel these
mm,
triggers
mm,
coming up. It was like big witch wounds, and it's
mm,
like, oh,
mm.
this is an opportunity to heal. I can
Yeah.
keep reacting and identifying with this and being a victim, or I can take this, transmute it, take the blessings and the gold in it, and become more fucking powerful and creative because of it. So it's like a fine line that we walk. And I think it's, you can become a victim, or you can take that shit and turn it into gold. That's
Hell
with
to the
triggers.
hell to the yeah. Do you know what? I was everyone in Australia will know Bunnings, and I absolutely love Bunnings.
Nice.
And I used to work there. I love taking my son there. And my son walks in. It's a massive warehouse. It's a DIY store, a huge DIY franchise. And actually, so another off topic, their business is not DIY. It's real estate because the amount of land they own.
Yes.
Amazing, amazing. Anyway, used to
Same
work
with
for them.
Macca's.
Yeah, well, I love going in there because I'm like, I'm a girl in here, and there's not much of that connotation there, but especially Monday morning, loads of tradies around, big beards, "Urgh, what's she doing in here?" And it's me with my trolley with Leo in it, and he goes, "I love Bunnings, mummy." I was like, "Me too, son. Used to work here." And yeah, and I and I was walking around getting some bits and bobs, and I love talking to our son as we walk around, and I did. I went hell to the yeah really loud just as I came around the corner with this big tradie, and for the first time, wasn't subconscious, self conscious. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna say it again. I was like, hell to the yeah, Monday morning.
Yeah.
You feel like shit. I don't. I'm pretty fucking happy. Girls in the year,
I'm
sisters.
rocking. And if my happiness triggers the fuck out of you, then
Yes.
that's what your work is.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, "How dare she be so happy? Why is
Happy.
she so happy? You should be like us."
Yeah. I
Oh
think that's
gosh.
actually, it's interesting because I remember seeing that a lot of the triggers, like when I was pregnant and going to like mums groups and things like that.
Oh,
And it was like a mum that was really healthy and vibrant and loving pregnancy and loving on life and had the best fucking birth and all the rest of it. And it was actually interesting. I noticed even myself and some other women, we'd actually feel triggered by that because we felt like shit. And it'd be like, fuck you. Like, why are you so fucking amazing?
and they're like,
And I'm over
my
here like,
my best friend in Poland, she was pregnant at the same time, and she was like, "I don't even know I'm pregnant. I'm going to the gym. I'm like full of energy, and I'm just like, I fucking hate
yeah,
you.
yeah.
It's
I know,
not
it's like
fair."
that dark trigger wants to bring everybody into its
Yes,
misery. Like, it's like, come into my miserable vortex.
yes.
I know, because I
I
had
did
the same
everything
with the.
right. I did everything right, and it's so enlightening, actually, isn't it? With retrospect and with reflection, because
Mm,
I was such a sad sack. I went into hibernation. I had a really, really terrible pregnancy, and yet I'd done everything right. I'd followed everything to the
mm,
textbook. I was fit and healthy. I stopped doing alcohol, blah, 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 everything like that. But
yeah.
reflecting back on it, it was such a valid experience because I had to surrender. I had to go
Yes.
into that dark space. I had to
Mm,
feel what it's like to be pretty disabled. Like I didn't have my
yeah.
vices. I couldn't,
Yes.
and I pushed my body too hard if I did try and exercise. And it
Mm,
forced me into relaxing so much so that I have the
mm.
most beautiful son and he's super chilled. And it's like, well, if
Beautiful.
that's for the reason, so be it. I do remember being on a spin bike and I just thought, I'm not, this is not where I need to be right now. And what on earth is my poor son thinking inside my womb, going, what is that? I was in the front row. What is that noise? What is all this activity? What is going on out there?
Over
Like,
there.
and I was like, but I'm a spin, I've got to keep going. I've got to keep burning fat. I've got to keep, proving
Oh,
myself. And, I'm
oh
fit and healthy and
no.
amazing. And it's like,
And
no,
that's,
just surrender to
yeah,
it.
just relax. Exactly. Because I think as well, like pregnancy, and one thing that used to trigger me with doctors. So this is a big trigger with the patriarchal masculine hospital system was,
Mm,
they put this, it was so much fear, and this not really empowering women to trust their own bodies and all the rest of it.
yes.
And I remember every time I went to the hospital, because I had previous years and years ago, I had a lot of accidents, with motorbikes and stuff like that. So I actually had a lot of trauma and triggers going into a hospital system.
Mm,
And literally to the point, if I walked into a hospital, I would break out in a sweat. I'd have a panic attack. And in here in the Northern Territory where I live, there's only really one hospital that women can go to get, to see their midwives.
mm,
And and I remember every time I went in there, I just felt this trigger and I thought, okay, this is an opportunity to heal and release stuff. And I remember at one point my son was really late for I think the doctors had guessed for him to come at, on this certain date. And because he didn't come on their fucking date, I was just like, so he's fine, let him be. And then they're trying to put all this fear of God into me that you got, risk of stillbirth, you're an older woman, blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, according to my I swear a lot, guys, sorry, but I was like, excuse me, mate, according to my fucking moon cycle, he's due on the new moon next Wednesday. And he looked at me like I was a fucking nut job. But I was like, I'm trusting
mm,
my body and I'm not going to let you trigger me with fear, worries, and anxiety. I said, you monitor him.
mm,
Anytime he feels stressed or whatever, absolutely get him the hell out. But until
mm.
that time, you let him be. And sure enough, he arrived at angel number 7:07 a.m. on the new moon on the Wednesday because I trusted my
Mm.
guidance, I trusted my body, and we ended up having natural birth, and he was out within about 8 hours. That's how quick it
Oh,
was.
oh.
And you hear a lot of some of my girlfriends at the time who were also pregnant, they were in a lot of fear, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. They were triggered by these doctors. They had all this fear on them,
Mhm.
and they ended up having really, really traumatic birth situations. And so that was something that, if when you go into these hospital systems, and I don't know why I'm channeling this or why we're speaking about this, but obviously it's a message if you are pregnant or you're going to get pregnant or whatever as a woman, is, be prepared that when you feel those triggers of fear come up when you become pregnant or when you're in hospital situations or where someone, a doctor or someone is, gaslighting you or telling you don't know any better than them or whatever, it's like keep coming back into your body and trust yourself. And anything that comes up in you, anything that's triggered, it's like look at that, heal and release that, because that's going to help you to trust your body more, trust your baby more, to give birth and so forth. I don't know, that just came through, Amanda. I'm blabbing
Yeah.
now, but
Well,
yeah.
because when you mentioned it prior, this is a really, really important topic. This is why I set up my business, Women's Wellness, because of what I went through. I thought I want to empower others and
Yes.
tell the whole world, this is a birthing experience. You've got rights. Don't just follow what the doctors
Yes.
say. And it gave me. I don't want to sound like a martyr, but that bad experiences do help us then have more compassion and speak to
Absolutely.
others and say, I
Absolutely.
understand, I hear you. And
Yeah.
those triggers, I was in a massive fear state. There was one residing my glory moment, because I really wish I could relive it. I really wish I'd told people and I was a lot harder and sort of said, do this, don't do it, do that. But you feel pretty powerless because they're like, you have to do this, you have to do that. Anyway, my glory moment was there was about 5 doctors and I had a birthing plan and I said to them, I want low lighting, nice and calm, no noise, da da da. 5 of them. There's like 1 or 2 doctors in there. They were all talking behind the curtain, whisper, whisper, whisper. I was getting really, really fucking stressed. There were pages going on as well as a heart monitor on my belly pressing in the whole time. It's like I say, it's like when you had a full tummy and someone poking you. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, go away the whole freaking time. I was like, it's so painful. Anyway, so all these machines going off, beep, 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 all these pages, people talking, da, da, da. They're talking about emergency C-section. My
Oh,
biggest nightmare. What the
God.
hell? Why are they even talking about it? And I
Right.
knew,
And you're
but
giving birth. This is meant to be
yeah,
like sacred time, not
yeah.
fucking, makes me.
But psychically, I knew it wasn't going to happen, but they were stressing me out.
Yeah.
So the midwife came out, and she was a hard one. Anyway,
Oh, you got an asshole too? I got an asshole.
yeah,
In my birth, I was
she needs
like,
to
get her
change
out of the
jobs.
room.
And do you know what? Because I didn't feel safe with her, the whole shift she was there, I couldn't labor.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was only
Couldn't
when they changed
relax.
shifts, had a beautiful first midwife and a beautiful next last one, but in the middle anyway. So my glory moment is when she comes up and she said, "Oh, look, what is it that you want, Amanda?" And I was standing up at the time, and I am a pretty, even though I swear here, I'm pretty like prim and proper, little English girl. And for the first time, I stood there and looked her in the eyes. I went, I want everyone to fuck off. And it was so good. It was so good. And she was like, oh. And then my partner at the time went, could you give us 5? Like in a super, super feminine voice. And she was like,
I love
okay,
it.
everybody, let's go. So then when they did actually leave, and I love telling this story to empower other women. When they did
Yeah.
actually leave, oh, that's really good, darling. I'll be there in a minute. When they did finally leave, I calmed down. My heart rate went down. Of course, my son's heart rate
Beautiful.
went down. And they came, by the
Nice.
time I just like focus on my breathing, everything's good, back into the Zen mode, just having him hold me, like everything's calm. So they came back in, they
Beautiful.
went, oh, it's a miracle. His heart rate's dropped. We don't need a C-section after all. And I'm like, well, it doesn't take a fucking genius. And what really gets me is, and I've said to so many of my clients, and this has been such an empowering experience to pass on to them, to say to them, and to help reach out to them, is, you know, um, how many C-sections have been performed because of the same situation. And
Yes.
we haven't reclaimed that power and said, my baby's getting stressed because I'm stressed. We're
Yeah.
intrinsically linked. My cortisol's
Yeah.
going off through the roof. My heart rate's increasing. Of course it is. They can't
Absolutely.
not feel it. So I tell you what,
Yeah.
why don't you help me to relax and then everything will
Yeah.
be fine. And
Exactly. And
she
it's about like creating a really safe, calm environment for the mother. And that's something that triggers me
yeah.
about hospital systems, because same thing, I had a birthing plan that was absolutely ignored by the nurses on shift.
Mm,
And when I asked for the clock to be removed and a few things installed and a birthing bath, this South African nurse, she could tell she was over her job. She was like, she should not have been there. I lost my shit with her. But yeah, she just rolled her eyes at me and was just like, oh,
mm,
what for? And it stressed me out. And I'm like
mm.
birthing a baby is such a sacred place,
Yes.
and something that I want to see in the future change is something that I actually want to move on and work on in the future,
Mm,
is creating birthing spaces that are very beautiful and calm and nurturing for the mother and baby, not these sterile fucking hospitals
mhm,
where you got lights blaring at you, you've got all this
mhm,
shit craziness going
mhm.
around you. And they're saying that C-sections have massively increased over the last
Yep.
few years.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a big
We
one.
have we actually this may trigger people. Um,
Good.
warning, trigger. We had actually inside information. So my son's half brother is a doctor, and his
Oh
girlfriend.
wow,
They're
bless.
both GPs now, but they were
Hmm.
working at the hospital at the time I was giving birth. Right?
Wow,
They've
bless.
told me that they are planning. This is the government, unfortunately. They are planning to mainstream episiotomies because it's quicker for the surgeons. I know, and they're unnecessary. So I went for natural
Wow.
birthing, and they said my midwife was. She wasn't there at the birth, unfortunately. Otherwise, everything would be fine. But she
Yeah.
had 30 years experience. Not one of her
Wow.
ladies has ripped or torn that bad that they need an
Yeah.
episiotomy. And the episiotomy has now changed. They don't just cut. Sorry, people, it's graphic. Cut from the vagina down to the anus. They're now going to actually do a cross there. So they go horizontally,
Wow.
which on top of the normal trauma and recovery, that's the last thing you need is a big old scar like that. And I only had tiny
Yeah.
stitches on my labia
Yeah,
because my
wow.
son's fingernail got me on the
Mm.
way out. Thank you. But that was tiny. And even the doctor, because she looked at me, and again, knowledge is power, ladies.
Power.
And it's the
Yes.
men's responsibility to be really empowered for your woman, right? That's the main
Yes.
job. And then as
Mm.
women, we need to research the fuck out of everything because it's our job to know so we can make those
Yes.
informed decisions on the day. Because the doctor came in,
Absolutely.
been in labor for 32 hours, and she said, "You're going to need a episiotomy." And in the middle of my contraction, I went, "No, you're fucking not."
Yes.
Because I know what
Yeah.
that is. I know I
Yep.
don't need it. And when we gave birth, she was stitching me up, and as you do, chatting away. And
Yeah.
she goes, "I can't believe that you didn't tear or rip
Yeah.
because he had his hand and it looked really tight." And I said,
Mm.
"Because I've been doing massage. I'm a massage
Hmm.
therapist. So I've been
Yes.
massaging the perineum around there." And she goes, "Oh,
Yep.
I didn't think people did that anymore." It's
Ugh.
like, well, I can't really tell you that in the middle of contractions, can I? You
Yeah.
know, just
I
like
have been massaging.
I have been stretching and massaging and doing all the bits and bobs. I don't need it.
Oh,
I have been
bless. I
doing
love
my
it.
massaging. All right. But yeah, and and just going back to your point before I forget, because I keep forgetting to mention it, about the fact that triggers make us feel uncomfortable, and that's what
Mm.
yoga teaches, ancient, Buddhist philosophy, to lean into that uncomfortable feeling
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
not be afraid of being uncomfortable. And
Yeah,
we don't have to
exactly.
take all these drugs so we don't feel pain. It's okay to feel
Mhm.
pain because the labor
Yeah.
pain is something we can tolerate. And I've said
Yeah.
to lots of my clients, especially first time mummies, I just say, look, honest, I know it's different for everybody, but the ring of fire, the actual vagina, I honestly never felt a thing.
Mhm.
I did not hurt by
Yeah.
birthing. It was all contractions. And
Yeah.
I was on Syntocin. So then it
Yes.
magnifies and we're going back to your point with the cortisol and the stress. And if we can
Mhm.
please set some gorgeous birthing units by the ocean, that's what we need.
Mm.
We need to be by the ocean,
Yes.
connecting to the raw elements. Um,
Yes.
because with our
Absolutely.
stress, what happened with me, I was fighting myself the whole time. So they were
Mm.
putting syntocin, which is synthetic oxytocin, to give birth.
Yeah.
So
Everything
that
tensions up, tightens up.
Yeah, so it's
Mm.
forcing the uterus to contract, right? So it's like
Yeah.
having a muscle cramp in your calf and
Ugh.
having something make your muscle cramp, right? But my cortisol was kicking in because I was so stressed. So my body, my brain,
Mm.
my chemicals in my brain, in my hypothalamus was going, girlfriend, this is fight or flight. This is not a safe place to give birth. So
Yeah.
my body was fighting itself the whole freaking 12 hours when I was
Bless.
in active labor, and it was horrendous.
Mm.
And you go, but I always swear, if I was in the bush with me and some other ladies squatting, it would have happened so much quicker. And like you
Absolutely. Because you would
say,
have been relaxed and you're not triggered. And,
yeah,
because when you go
just,
into that trigger mode, it's like everything tightens up and contracts and
yep,
stress and, yeah. And it's not that beautiful flow,
yeah.
basically.
And it's
It's,
it's not
yeah.
an operation. They're trying to mainstream it so they can get,
Mm.
like bums on seats. They get people in and out. And he goes, but
Yeah.
it's a birthing. This has effects, the ramifications on the babies, on
Yeah.
their relationships, on their personalities, as well as
Exactly.
And even mums, I've met some mums that they don't want to have another baby because of the trauma of their first child,
Yeah. It was
because of the
huge. They're even
birthing.
saying now that a lot of hospitals now, the whole maternity suite, used to be women would bond. I'll just finish up here today because I've just noticed we've nearly gone for like an
Yeah,
hour.
I know.
So we'll finish up if that's okay, and we'll but yeah, I'll just end on with the midwife that I was talking to when I was in the hospital. She said back in the day you'd spend 2 weeks in a maternity ward bonding with other mothers and the babies and learning, the
Oh,
mothering skills. And she said now in her, because she's been a midwife for something like 40 something years, and she said she has seen a massive change now where it's literally become like fucking McDonald's. You
yeah,
come in, pop the baby out, we'll give you 4 hours and out you go. And she
yeah,
said, I've got young mothers as young as 15 and 16 coming in here who need a tribe of women to support them,
yes.
and they're not getting that support. They're literally just getting chucked back out of the hospital system. And it's because hospitals are not designed to support the feminine, the
Mm,
the birthing mother. It's all very masculine, very patriarchal, and that definitely has to change. Hospitals for me trigger the fuck out of me.
yeah.
So that's
And
my big trigger.
well, and
And I'll leave it
and
there on my part.
the knock-on effects of the postnatal depression, again, wrapping things up. But then we've got a lot of mums at home on their own without support,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
it's even
Huge
worse.
question. Yeah.
And that's why we need to support each other. We need to connect like this. We need to keep
Yes.
on reaching out. Don't be too proud to say, I
Yes.
need help. And
Yeah.
it's been a blessing to have worked with so many beautiful women and to be able to
Mm.
say, I understand, I've got you. Are you okay? Like
Yes.
you can do this. And when if you're pregnant and you're worried about labor, one of my clients, she actually studied psychology, she's awesome. And she said, but so much out of my control, what's the point in worrying? Like
Mm.
I can't control it. There's the home birthing and hypnobirthing and all that kind of stuff, like positive affirmations, blah blah. There was one of them. I had to face my fear, which was preparing for a C-section in case it was to happen, but then
Mm.
don't focus on it. It's like, okay, done
Yes.
that, park that. I'm not going to manifest that into my life because all the fears, do happen. But
Yeah.
yeah, triggers. It's like you say, you can either spend your life running away from them, which I did,
Mhm.
I think, for the first part of my life, and you
Yeah.
never outrun them. Doesn't
No.
matter how many times you move until you turn around and face them. And I was
Yeah.
listening. I was sorry. Just wrapping up again on the pain body. One of
Mhm.
my clients experienced a pain body activation. I remember when you mentioned it towards me as well, and I just looked at Eckhart Tolle, sorry, um, and the way he's saying to for it to disappear is to face it, for us to put
Yes.
our conscious awareness to the subconscious, then it can't have
Mm.
power over us, which is like the
Yes.
shadow work. Then it's
Yeah.
like, is that the
Same thing.
best?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of our last piece of advice on triggers is to say,
Yeah.
lean into it, work through it. Why is it being triggered? And
Yeah.
then
Love, bless, and accept it.
love, bless, and accept. Yes.
Yeah, and speak to
Thank
it
you
with
for this
love.
trigger.
Like, see it as like sort of an aspect of your psyche that, a trigger could also, you could even call it like your little inner child having a tantrum, and it's like leaning into that and saying, oh, hello, sweetheart. I love you. I'm here for you. What's this about?
Mm,
And just doing that simple act of loving kindness towards that trigger. Then you're owning it, you're taking it on, but you're giving it that space, that love and that compassion to be seen, to be held, to be expressed. Because often our shadow parts of us and that pain body parts of us have been created, those triggers from certain events in our lives where we didn't feel loved, or we didn't feel acknowledged or seen or held or supported, or we were hurt somehow. And so by and no one else is going to heal our shit for us. You are the healer of your triggers, your trauma, your stuff. You can have healers and people that support you, but ultimately you are the healer. And it starts by, looking at those triggers and loving and blessing, accepting and speaking to them as you would a little child that's hurting. I love you, beloved one. What's this about? I fucking hate her. She said all this shit about me. Oh, I'm so sorry you feel like that.
yes.
It's just like, and then you can actually, I had a client do that process with some of her triggers, and she said, oh, I actually felt this sense of relief. And I was like, yeah, because that's your soul softening. That's the love of who you are taking up more space, and you're releasing that resistance. You're releasing that tight energy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And with the full moon that just happened last night, this is the perfect time
Big
to
triggers.
release it. Yeah, triggers and release. It's like, woo.
Woo!
But yeah, and I love that the first thing that happens is to say thank you. because
Yeah.
I think I messaged you once and I went, ah. And it's like, okay, calm down. That's the emotion. Okay,
Yeah, let's
so
look at
thank
it.
you for this happening. Thanks for this coming up. And
Yeah.
thank you for being on this podcast. It's
Thank you.
so good
Yay.
to talk about triggers. And I wish, again, it's something that we were taught about, something that should be in our
Mm,
high school curriculum. You know, it's like, this is a
yes,
trigger, this is how to deal with it, rather than,
absolutely.
yeah. I
Yeah,
love that
absolutely.
it's got a name to it. We can say, that's okay,
Beautiful.
it's a trigger. We can deal with that. It's
Yeah,
not some big
cool.
demon that you have to go, oh my God, I'm never going to face that ever again. It's too hard. It's like, no, it's just a
No.
trigger. Let's work through.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And that's where on the other side of that's your gold and your liberation. It's like you got to go into the wound to heal the wound. Let it liberate you. Yeah.
That's
All
right.
right.
Oh,
Cool. So should we leave it on
beautiful.
that? We'll do it. Did you want to do the outro or just to say like if people wanted to find out more about you or I or where to go next?
Yeah, I did it. I
I
did it at the
don't know
beginning
what
as
the
well.
outro is. Oh, you did it at
Yeah,
the
we did
beginning?
it.
Okay, awesome. Perfect.
I've just come down. I'm sitting next to my son because he's still feeling a bit sicky. So I've just sat down
Oh,
next to him to give him a
bless.
little bit of a rub on
He's
his
been
back.
amazing today.
I
Hello,
know.
Leo.
He's so good. And he was triggering the out of me yesterday. But it was
Oh,
so
yes.
good because you know what? It was teaching me how to
Mhm.
not lose my temper and still set my
Yes.
boundaries. And it was like,
Yes.
no, yeah, no, no. And it was like, and I actually said to him, listen, you're pushing me. I'm
Mhm.
so close to the point, to the breaking point. Like we had a
Yeah.
bath and he went to hold my head down underwater so that water went up my nose.
Mm. Mm.
And but you know what? I still wasn't angry. And it
Yeah.
was like, and I was sort of saying, I'm going to lose it in a minute. And inside going,
Mhm.
not really.
No.
But stop. Can you please just stop? But
So
it's
they
all
go deaf.
teaching. It's all teaching. It's brilliant. So
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
he's my best teacher. But yes,
Beautiful.
all right. So we'll see
Okay.
you on the circuit. If you do want an Ellen or myself, and you missed the beginning of the show, we are here every couple of weeks. So it's Ellen at ellenserena.com. Is that right, Ellen? The
Mhm.
best way to
Yep.
get you?
Yep.
Have you got any other immersions or anything coming up at the moment?
Not immersions coming up. No, that one I've just finished last week with a 6-week immersion. But yeah, I'm kind of being guided to channel through some digital course stuff at the moment. So yeah,
Ooh,
there's one
exciting.
coming up called I think the Wealth Goddess, and that's teaching women how to harness their moon cycle to create wealth and soul aligned businesses. So that's yeah, something definitely needed because I think too many women are doing business and life and money through the masculine way.
Yes.
And
And
it's fucking exhausting.
can we have a loyalty card? I want to start studying with you and have a loyalty card so I can tick off each course that I do and be like, I want to do that one. I want to do the next one. I want to do the next one. And I get the 10th one free with free coffee.
Oh, bless,
Oh,
bless.
and
Yeah, so I'm at ellenserena.com. And where can they find out about you, Amanda?
so I am amandatantricwitch.com. Oh, thank you. Little
Woohoo!
kiss from Leo. And you'll see my workshop on there in Newcastle. But yeah, same thing. We are going to be hustling out the course details. I'm very excited to be releasing some courses soon too. So
Yay!
workshops in June if you're in the area. Otherwise, hang
'Cause-
on. He's just found some chocolate that's not going anywhere near your mouth. Thank you. Not
Oh.
today. All right, so we'll see you in the same time in a couple of weeks. Otherwise,
Beautiful.
reach out to us. Reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you.
That's
God bless
great. Thanks,
everybody.
gorgeous. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.